What's going on? Coach Stefan here, owner of Pursue Health and Performance. I'm with one of our awesome clients that's been with us since about January. It's the beginning of April, so around 3 months-ish. We joined at very, very end of December, so beginning in January. Do you mind introducing yourself, name, age, career, so people just, excuse me, have a good idea of who we're chatting with?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Micaela Crowley. I'm 39 years old. I live in Colorado and I am a firefighter and I'm also in the Army National Guard.
Yeah. So exactly who we want to work with, which is why we wanted to get you signed up. And so Michaela has made a really great transformation. The other day, her coach, Coach Mike, posted a picture, which, um, in a good way, I was like, wow, like from you from when you first started. And I know when you joined, you wanted to accomplish a couple of goals, be more consistent in the gym, tighten up your nutrition, increase your performance. And your picture, I know people can't see right now, they could go to our social media, but like, um, you had a pretty good physique before. You weren't overweight or anything, but you were a little bit softer than you wanted. And now you got abs. Like,
Yeah.
walk me through where you were when you first joined and then where you are now. Like, what has the 3 months been like for you?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, I think when we first ever talked, I was coming off in 2023, I had a pretty significant ankle injury. And I've been lucky enough that that was like the first real major injury I've ever really had. It's playing sports and stuff, which is just crazy that was the first time, but kind of took me out for a little bit and then trying to come back. I was kind of struggling,
Yeah.
kind of with that. I wouldn't even, it was like post recovery of
Yeah.
getting back in shape. And I was just really, really struggling with that. And I think explained it to you. I was going to the gym, but I felt like it was like really lazy. I'd be
Yeah.
in there for an hour and leave, and I'd be like, did I even get anything out of that kind of thing?
Mhm.
So I kind of felt like I had maybe plateaued is a good word, and was really looking for maybe, a change of something to kind of get motivated and get kind of reset that fire. And kind of stumbled upon, being, sitting on the sofa, just strolling through Instagram and ran across your page. And I think I just randomly started following you. And then you contacted me and it kind of went from there. And yeah, that's kind of how it got started. So,
Yeah. So what are some things, and we'll get into a bunch of different things, but what are some results that you've seen? I mean, that's why you came here. That's why everybody comes here, right? Burn fat, build muscle, increase your
yeah.
performance. What have you
Right.
seen so far in 3 months?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I think, and we talked about it when I first got here, was I'm in a very physically demanding two careers, really, if you look at
Yeah.
the army and then
Yes.
firefighting. And I see a lot of people that have been around a lot. Maybe they're like 3 years out from retirement, and they're like limping towards retirement. Like I say,
Yeah.
they have tape and all this stuff, and just and I was like, I don't want to be that. I want to be able to retire and kind of still be on top of my game. And I realized that's a lot of it is to stay physically fit your whole career. Um, so just I think more of injury prevention is a big thing, and knowing how to treat your body, take care of your body, recover, are big things that I don't think people necessarily think about. They're like, oh, let me
Yeah.
lift or run, but
Yeah.
there's so many more components into it than just that, the nutrition part, the recovery. Um, so yeah, it was just a lot of that was just wanted to know how to better take care of myself. Cause I mean, I am getting older and it's like you need to start listening to your body. I'm not
Yeah.
25-year-old anymore that can, shut up me, you're fine, and just power through. I want to know like, okay, where can I push? Where am I need to like, okay, because of my ankle,
Yeah.
maybe don't push so hard on this. Um, so just that of knowing like how to listen to my body has been a big thing. Eating, like I've just learned so much. It's not even like Coach Mike just giving me, hey, hit these goals. I want you to hit these because of this, and
Yeah.
learning has been huge of learning how to fuel my body. I think a lot of people think they know how to eat healthy, but I'm like, are you actually fueling your body and what it needs?
Yes. Yes.
And just the general physicality of our job. Um, I mean, I'm a smaller person in general, so things at work, where some of the bigger guys can just throw their body weight around. I can't do that. That's not possible. So more of technique, like a perfect example is throwing ladders. For me, it's a lot about leverage and, finding that kind of point of where I can throw the ladder. And I just remember I hadn't thrown ladders for a little bit, and it might have been like a month, 2 months, month and a half into working with Coach Mike. And I remember we did some ladder stuff, and I remember just kind of going out there and just like throwing it, and was kind of like, wow, that was really easy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was one of those pleasantly surprised things of how
Yeah.
like it wasn't a struggle for me anymore. Like I could do it in the past, obviously, but it was kind of like, oh, that was a lot. Here, I just do it, and I'm like, oh, I guess this is paying off.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
been a huge benefit of definitely feeling the difference at work of just the ease of things has been huge.
Yes. Yeah. So you touched on a lot of things. I mean, number one, which is I told you from the get go that we're not just going to bark orders at you because we know, okay, you're a first responder, you're military, we can follow orders. I know that's not necessarily the issue. The issue is eventually you're going to leave the program, like inevitably, right? And so along that journey, we have to educate you, we have to teach you, and your coach isn't there hovering over you 24/7. So guess what? When you're eating things, when you're out, when you're doing, you have to get educated to know, like you said, how to fuel your body. And
Mhm.
this isn't a bodybuilding program where we can put you guys on keto and get you shredded and never have you have any fuel because you're sitting at a desk all day. It's physically demanding and you need to be fit for duty, right? You need to be able to fuel your body, perform, do these things. So there's a balance. Now, you hit a lot of components. When we first come in, we try to, most people want to burn fat, build muscle, and increase their performance within the same time frame. 3 months in, I think it's safe to say you did all three, right?
Yeah.
Uh, so that's, I mean, that's not an easy feat. So like hats off to you too for putting in the work. Like it's not scientifically, to lose body fat and gain muscle is kind of challenging. You have to be hitting your protein goal very frequently. You have to be having days when you're in a deficit. You have to be training hard, specifically strength training, and you're doing all three of those things. And it makes me super freaking excited to hear that it's transitioning to work. Like throw the ladder and you're like, oh, dang, like I look good, but it's not just for looks. Like it is functional muscle, which is really great. Um, you've never had an online coach before us, is that correct?
Correct.
Do you feel like you're a little bit hesitant when doing an online program before joining?
I think so. I don't know if it was necessarily the online part of it. I think it was just the, taking that kind of step into a new program
Mm,
and
yeah,
kind of, because I know we talked before, I had done CrossFit for
yeah,
so long. So it was kind of like, am I ready to kind of leave that field into into this? And I think the online, I never really, yeah, it never really bothered me.
good,
When you
good.
explained it about how the access, and then I think you even showed me the workouts, and then there was the video. It seemed like this was a good fit. I think it was just kind of like we're all creatures of habit and
Yeah,
comfort, and kind of CrossFit, I think, had become a comfort for me. So
yeah,
kind of like, hey, this isn't working. And kind of coming to terms with that and being like, I need to try something different, I think was maybe where I was getting a little stuck on.
hmm,
Yeah, so I don't really think the online one, I think a little bit because I wasn't sure like how it worked.
yes,
But I
yeah,
think when we had that conversation, you really explained it really well. And I was like, oh, that seems, yeah, that's
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm biased, and I know, I mean, you probably see some other people in the group chats in the program. We have a ton of fire in LEO, and so like I know it works for this community. That's why we
Right.
created it. But when you are a creature of habit, you're like, oh, how is this systematic thing going to work? Some people are really sketched out about the online thing or whatever, but I'd love to hit on CrossFit because I have conversations every single week, and it's mostly LEO and fire, and
Mhm.
actually some military too. Although like those functional first responder career fields that are like CrossFit, 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 vast majority of them hitting a plateau, not getting the results. How
Mhm.
do you feel like this has been 3 months in compared to doing CrossFit? Like what
Um,
are the differences?
yeah, I mean, it's been weird in the sense of like CrossFit is so built on community and you work out together and you're in a class. So I think it was a bit, it took a second to get used to of like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm by myself. you know, like kind of like it was just like a solo venture.
Yeah.
So I think that was a little bit of getting used to, of just like kind of transitioning into how I'm training differently.
Yeah.
Um, and I never really thought, I mean, I enjoy lifting. Obviously, I work out as in CrossFit and we lift, and I've never been one of those that have been scared of getting bigger or building muscle. Um, but I think being able to now really focus on my strength, and really build those areas where maybe I was a little weaker or less strong in, that I think CrossFit, and it's no dig to CrossFit, I think just never focused on. And I think that's
Yeah.
a thing is, people forget that like Rich Fronin he's not that big because of CrossFit. It
Yeah.
helps, but he also lifts. And I think
Yeah.
people kind of like forget that piece of it. And I think really focusing on the lifting aspect of it, because I've lifted before and I've had
Yeah.
programs, but it's been a very generic, everybody's doing this, right? Whereas this
Mhm.
program has been so focused on me, what I need, what my goals are. Um, and I feel like because of that, and that specifically programmed for me, I feel like I've just like leaps and bounds and strengths.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah. And I agree. I tell people all the time, I don't think CrossFit is a bad thing at all. I'm not one of those people like CrossFit's terrible, but there's some gaps, there's some missing things, and we just want to fill those gaps. I told you in the beginning, if you still want to go to CrossFit one day a week because you love it, go. Like tell your coach, we'll fit that in. I'm not against it, but one thing that we do well, and we chatted about before we jumped on, is like the flexibility, right? Because sometimes you're working out at the station or you have different equipment. Walk us through how that's been, because when we say, hey, we give you a program that is tailored to you, your schedule, your physical capabilities, your goals, how's that been communicating with your coach and having him build out something that is for you?
yeah, it's been awesome. I think like I mentioned before, I know I'm not his only client, but the way his like quick responses, his just detail, if he makes me feel like I'm his only client, like if I have a question, he'll respond to me within like 10 minutes sometimes. Like I feel like I put my phone down and he's already
Yeah.
responded, which is nice, right? Because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like some coaches, it's like you can tell, it's like, oh, I'm one of 50. Do you even remember like who I am? Kind of
Yeah.
thing. Like, back to college when it's like you were known by your social security, like you had
Yeah.
200 people in your class. Like I feel like Coach Mike like knows who I am, knows what I want, and like makes me feel very much like I'm his number one priority.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he does for all of his clients, which is awesome. But yeah, it's been awesome in the sense of, like usually Sunday, if I'm not on shift, Sunday is usually I try to like, okay, what does the week have for me? I kind of try to plan out eating, meal prep day, and then I'll look at what he's programmed to kind of game plan it, on kind of where, like I've expressed to him that I don't really like to do, he'll program like a run. And at most it's been
Yeah.
like 3 miles, nothing crazy. And I've told him I don't like to do those on work days. Like when I'm on shift, I don't want to do like a long run or those sprint
Makes sense.
workouts.
Yeah.
So I've just been very upfront, like with what I need and like that. And he's been very just like, yeah, switch it with this day if that works for you. So just, I think I work really well with like lists and being organized. So the fact that he'll put, my workouts 2 to 3 weeks in advance, so I can be like, okay, kind of have a game plan of like, okay, this is what the next 2 weeks are going to look like, has been huge. And then also every Tuesday he sends me a thing where I fill out like where have I been struggling and all this stuff. So it's cool to be able to like, hey, I really struggled with this week, or whatever it was. Not only that, but knowing like, hey, I went to go visit family. So from this date to this date, I'll be with family. I don't really, my brother doesn't have a gym at his place, so wouldn't have an access to gym, right? And he'll program something that's like, hey, I'll just give you abs while you're gone. So just that open communication. And I think I can do better of like, hey, by the way, my, work gym doesn't have this. Yeah, I think but the open communication has been, um, pretty much amazing. Like I have never
Yeah.
once been sitting there waiting for a question to be answered and it's like felt ignored or anything. So it's
Yeah.
been,
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That makes me so happy. And we, yeah, I mean, the coaches have other clients, right? Because we have 4 coaches in our program and quite a few clients. But something that I harp on the coaches about, which they're so good anyways, but it's like we have to be fast communicators. We have to take really good notes. Because, imagine if you only had even 10 clients, right? Like different scenarios, different lives, like it can get muddled. So we are very structured. We're very organized. We take very good notes. We update things. So when you say things, we put them in. Like it's a good operation, right? And that's how it's supposed to feel, right? Is like, hey, I feel like this is my coach. Good. That means we're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Um, and also the flexibility stuff. And this is the why I am a big proponent in custom one-on-one coaching for first responders specifically, because I have busy lives and things change and schedules change. And then when you actually put your like personal life in, traveling to see family, doing those things, before I feel like a lot of the first responder community would go try to do something, maybe, or maybe be like, I'm traveling, there's no gym, I won't do anything. Well, now we're going to add in that workout that you maybe would have skipped, or, maybe would have just made it up on the fly. Like we want you to follow structure that's
Mhm.
flexible,
Yeah.
right? So just like you're like, okay, I can see my stuff. I'm organized. And guess what? For those of you listening, I know that's how we operate. Like military first responders, like I need a list, I need structure. And we thrive in that environment, which is why our app is set up where you can, I mean, the 5 Ps, right? Prior preparation prevents poor performance. We get that. We want you to be prepared. We want you to have it laid out so you can execute, so you can plan. And what it really does is it takes away all the excuses, right? Like it's laid out. Here it is. I got to
Right.
take ownership. It's there for me. And like you said, Mike, if you're not doing stuff or checking on you, like we're not militant and going to yell at you, but we're pushing you and challenging you based on the relationship we have with you. Like
Right.
Mike knows what makes you tick in a
Yeah.
good way, right?
Yeah.
So he pushes you, he challenges you.
Right.
And I think that is a really powerful, because sometimes, at least for me, like I feel like I'm just all gas or all brake a little bit. A lot of
Yeah.
our type A people. And so that makes me happy to know he's kind of pushed you in the areas you needed to, but also been understanding in the areas that you maybe needed a little grace, right?
Right. Yeah.
Uh, Go ahead.
Oh no, I was
Uh,
agreeing with everything you just said. So
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, again, you've only been in the program 3 months. I'm really excited to see you continue, because I'm like, man, 3 months in, and actually, we did doing a bunch of interviews right now, and it's actually a reoccurring theme. I mean, the first 3 months, I mean, it's a physiological, like new response to your body, new workouts. I know he has you doing some crazy movements that are new for you,
yeah.
but also um building the habits. Because I would say when I look at your physique, I'm like, oh, that for sure the training's been consistent, but the nutrition.
Yeah.
Walk me through that, because I think when people see somebody with a great physical transformation, at least this is what I hear as a coach. Oh, they're probably training 7 days a week, 6 days a week, like for 2 hours. They're probably just eating salads and chicken. Like, do you feel like that the transition you've made and the routine you're on is this super crazy, ultra restrictive routine?
No, I know. I never felt, I think at first, I mean, anything's new, right? Your body's
Yeah,
kind of like, whoa, what's
yeah,
this? But it wasn't necessarily in a bad way. It wasn't too like crazy, like, oh my God, what's happening? It was just kind of like, oh, okay, this is the new normal. And my body was kind of just like, oh, okay, we kind of like this.
yeah,
So I think with any change, it's just your body kind of adjusting to that. But I think the thing about nutrition is he kind of laid it out, but laid it out and then was in an educational way. He wasn't like, hey, this is what your protein, your fats, your carbs. Have fun. And
yeah,
you're like, but what? Yeah, he actually he's like, this is what I'm putting for protein. This is why. This is what I'm putting for fat. This is why. Right. So it really laid it out. So it like when you gets explained, and this is kind of like what I feel like me personally is if it's explained and then the health behind it, the health nutrition or the health factors behind it and why he's programming the way he is. One, you're just getting educated yourself,
yeah,
but just being like, oh, that makes complete sense, right?
yeah,
And then just the way my body felt, like maybe that week, it's kind of like you ever cut, caffeine or you
yeah,
cut sugar. The first week, you're like, whoa, 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 what
yeah,
just, right? So I think it took a second, but it wasn't like anything horrible or pain. It wasn't like I was going through, having hot flashes or sweating through my, it wasn't like crazy stuff that I was going through. I think it was just my body being like, oh, this is new. You've never really eaten like this before.
Yeah.
But in a good way. My body was kind of like, oh, we really like this. So it's been sometimes I'm sure you've experienced this and talked to multiple clients. Shift work is hard. It's really hard
Yes.
on trying to, not only eat, like in a timely manner, because there might be times we don't eat lunch until 2, we don't eat dinner until midnight. So that's kind of hard, right? But I think one thing of really planning is that even if I don't think I'm going to need 2 pre-cooked meals, I'll bring them. So a lot of times, if lunchtime gets crazy, they're like, hey, let's just go get fast food. And I'm like, I'm good. I'll drive you guys anywhere. However, I got food back in the
Yeah.
refrigerator. One, I think it saves money. And two, fast food can claim it's healthy. It's still fast food, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what they're cooking with or whatever. So it's just being planned out. And I will say that I am very lucky that the shift I'm on and the people I work with all eat healthy. So even when we're cooking healthy, right? So it's like if I was with another crew that eats like, freaking corn dogs and this for, I'm like, all right, I'd have to make sure I bring every single one of my meals,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I think a big thing for me too that I've noticed, I've never been a big, like, I like breakfast food, but I usually don't eat it. Does that make sense? Like I'm
Yeah.
usually
Yeah.
once I wake up, but kind of being in that routine now, like I think I actually eat more for my breakfast than lunch or dinner. So kind of seeing that kind of change. And then I think with that, I've noticed a lot more energy through the day.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, so it's been new. And it's kind of been like, whoa, this is a lot. Okay, this is a lot of change. And I think that initial kind of shock, my body's just been like, oh, we like this. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. No, for sure. A lot of change. And that is the challenge, but the fun, right? Like, and here's the thing. If you came in and you're like, oh, this is kind of what I was doing, why do the program? Like just do it on your own, like
Yeah,
it should be a change. It should be something different in a good way. We're not trying to flip your life upside down day one. That's not the goal, right? Like, but I mean, obviously, if you look at your physique and your performance, like 3 months in, I mean, come on, man, you're looking awesome, performing well. So it's working, right?
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, it's a good change. And um, you are lucky that you are on shift with people that cook healthy, not all fire is like that. But it's
yeah,
also for those of you who are listening, if you are on fire, it's also, you could be the leader. You could be the one that does it. And I tell you, like when I was in the military, I kind of had the same thing. I'd bring my meal prep food. People would go, oh, we're going to go get this. And I'm like, no, I would have it. And I'd even have guys that be like, literally make fun of me for eating healthy. I was like, I don't care. Like, I'm not eating that. I'm eating this. And it took some willpower and it took kind of a little bit of me maybe feeling awkward at first. But you know what? They all came around and were like, hey, dude, like what protein do you take? Like later on,
yeah,
asking me for help. And I'm like, I'm okay to just stand my ground and be that fit person and eat it. And once in a while, maybe I'd go do that. But like I had my plan, I had my structure, I knew how I wanted to feel, look, and perform, period. And so that was important to me. So good job, kind of standing your ground and still being with the community and the
yeah,
camaraderie, but not like having to eat the food. Like I'll drive you guys, I'll hang out with you, but like I'm eating this.
yeah.
So that's good. I
It
guess
is
my
funny.
last,
Oh,
go ahead.
I was
Yeah.
just saying it is funny, and I message Mike all the time. It's like I go I want to normalize uh bringing healthy snacks to the fire station because
Yes.
everybody that wants to come to the fire station to say thank you or to whatever, they bring donuts. We have
Yeah.
riders, they bring donut, and I'm just like, can we like how about I don't know, but like I'm just like because then I just like you can only walk past donuts so many times before you're just like, do I throw them away or I'm gonna eat it? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh, same thing. Like when I was on the flight line in the military, that's all people brought in, cookies and donuts. And then my wife's a nurse, and that is probably even worse. Starbucks cookies. I'm like, dude, bring us like at least a sandwich. I don't know if I'd eat that
yeah,
other, but like, yeah. So it is one of those things where, um, you have to kind of be an advocate for yourself. That's the best way to do it. Like bringing the food, like just in case. It's a safety net, right? Like
Right.
also, hey, I might not eat it, but it's there. And if it's not there, then I'm subject to just whatever, fast food, the gas station. And yeah. And so you have to be a little bit proactive, which it sounds like you are. You're meal prepping, you're doing things you need to do. And yeah, and you've been crushing it. So hats off to you because you've been putting in the work for sure. I mean, we can give you all the guidance, all the education, all the support. That's awesome. That's what you come here for. But nobody makes you do it. So good job. I guess my last thing would be, it if you were to kind of like talk to somebody that maybe was on the fence or thinking about getting some online coaching that was in fire, maybe
Mhm.
specifically another female, like what would you say to that person based on your experience?
Yeah, so I mean, another thing I didn't mention obviously, but I help out at a community college in their EMS department, so I'm like a skills instructor,
Okay.
and I would say more than half, probably like 75% of every EMT student is I'm here first, I want to get my EMT, then I want to be a firefighter. So that's a
Yeah.
question that I get a lot. Um, and a lot of them are females, and some of them they're like, "Hey, I've never worked out before. I don't even know where to start," right?
Yeah.
Um, and I tell them, I was like, maybe for you, somebody that's never lifted before, having a like a one-on-one coach, but in person might be better just to show you how to lift. But then it's hard because you're talking to maybe a 19, 20 year old one old student that I'm a student, I can't pay, uh, somebody. And I would recommend even for somebody that's brand new, because the videos that you guys post for your workouts are so beneficial. And then the fact that like I can post a video and then Coach Mike can be like, hey, watch your hips or your knees in this lift. Um, so I think sometimes I think in the past and not knowing online, I may have steered some of these kids away from online. But now seeing your program and how I mean, hands-on at even a distance you guys are, I definitely have been, suggesting it to a bunch of them, because I think a lot of them too is, like, being young, and I can remember when I was, like, that age, I played Division I soccer, but I didn't know how to eat. I didn't know
Yeah.
really, like, I walked in, this was what was the lifts that were programmed, I did it and I left, and I never knew the why, or you know what I mean? So I think not only the education piece that you guys offer, I think is so beneficial, especially for people that are brand new and have never ever really truly lifted before. Um, yeah, so I just try to point them in the right direction, and I think you've talked about it. I think multiple times in your podcast about just like there's such an overload of information out there, that I would be truly, if this was 10, 15 years ago, I would be so overwhelmed with like, where do I start? Walking into a gym's intimidating. I don't know what to do. So I have been suggesting a program like you guys or something similar to these students, because I feel like just that education piece and building that good
Mhm.
foundation, is huge. To kind of, you got to have a good foundation, right? If you've
Yeah.
never learned to lift, it's like, yeah, okay, you're bench pressing 250, but maybe if you had good form, you'd bench press 350,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So that's what I just explained to them. And I'm like, please do your education on the person or program, right? Like if you're going to do a personal one-on-one training, like that's the biggest thing I tell them is like, look at that person's qualifications, right? Like see what they're bringing to the table. Cause I think there was one, I think it was you got, yeah, you posted like all of the coaches and their like qualifications that I think Coach Mike's almost like ran off the page. Like, you know what I mean? Like the level of education that your coaches, like that's what I tell them. I'm like, I don't care what program you do, like follow me and come to this program or a different. I say just be educated in what
Yeah.
program you go to. Like make sure these people claim that they know about nutrition, but make sure they do, right?
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing and that I tell them is like, please do your education on these people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there's three. No, that's all really good information. I'll touch on that. There's really three stages, right? Number one, like the education matters, but somebody could be educated and really crappy at getting people results. Now there's also the thing too, where people can get people results, like they'll post, transformation pictures, but you're also like, but like, did they just follow some, like just what you did? Some coaches are like, this is how I got fit, follow me. And so you
Yeah.
don't really know if they are educated. And so there's really three things. Number one, what is your actual background in education? Mike and a lot of our coaches have their masters and beyond. And, we all have it. I mean, I have my bachelor's, multiple years certifications. Plus, like, how long have you been doing it? Most of our coaches, 10 plus years in person before we even went online. How many transformations have you had? Mike and myself and our coaches, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And then, you go another layer deep and you do stuff like this. Do you, let me actually talk to somebody in the program. And so we
Right.
want to have all the layers because we have nothing to hide. Because, in a confident way, we're very good at what we do. We have high level coaches. We have a good program. And sometimes and this is the thing, this is why I asked about the online coaching in the beginning.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people out there that claim they're online coaches and they can help you make transformations. And so it is kind of hard to navigate through that. I'm glad though that you said the stuff about the EMTs because we actually have EMS in our program right now that are trained to be firefighters. I'm for sure, pretty sure Coach Mike has a couple of them. And it's one of those things where we get it that you're aspiring to do this. And I do agree. I do agree that in-person training can be very beneficial in the beginning to get those base lifts. Totally agree with that. However, side note, we have had some people that have come in that have never had any experience that have done very well in our program. But obviously, if you come and you're like, oh, I know my way around a gym, you're just going to do that much better. Right. But like, you're still going to hit a brick wall. If you go see a trainer 2, 3 days a week for 6 months and you're like, I'm really confident in all my lifts and I feel good. Awesome. Now you need a program to follow. Right.
Right.
Now you need nutrition, which the in-person trainer doesn't do. Now you need that accountability, which the in-person trainer doesn't do. So, we have different levels in our program. We have people that come in that are pretty fit, like yourself, that get more fit. We have people that come in that are pretty baseline, that go to medium or stay with us for years and get extremely in shape.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that you're telling people, like, do your due diligence, do your research, get educated, make sure these people know what they're talking about. But I am a huge proponent into online coaching because me, Mike, Ryan, all of our coaches have done everything in the fitness industry for over 10 years. And we've seen what works and doesn't work. And I'm never going to like dog solely on in-person training, but I think for the most part, it is a little bit of a dying industry
Mhm.
because there's big gaps. There's not the accountability. There's not the communication. You don't leave the gym and your coach is like, anytime you want to text me, go ahead. And I got your
Yeah.
back. Like they're like, see you next time.
Right.
So there's these gaps. And if you were a 9 to 5 person that had the same schedule every week, maybe it would be okay. But when you're working different shifts and training at different places, you need more flexibility. And that is what that's another reason why I'm like, if you're a first responder and you're serious about getting in shape, please work with a high level online coach. Like it's going to be a game changer. And, 600 plus clients later, including yourself, we've proven that it works pretty well. And you're only 3 months in. So I'm
Yeah.
excited for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I appreciate you jumping on this. This was an awesome conversation. Really good feedback. I'm still astonished by your results in a good way. Like I'm not surprised I knew you were going to do it, but I'm like, dang, you look awesome. And I'm sure you feel pretty excited about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, I do appreciate you jumping on, and I know this is gonna help somebody, maybe another person that's new into fire or pretty experienced that's kind of on the fence. So I appreciate it, and we'll see you on the inside. Okay.
All right.
All right. Thanks.